practicality, excellence, performance, mastery, having things sorted and doing things for some practical reason. Isn't that what provides emotional security for most people? What are even our emotions? Are they anything that's actually something with inherent value? Is there anything about emotions that makes anyone feel comfortable? These are the kinds of questions that I sense a lot of Capricorn moon people would struggle with, purely based on emotions aren't tangible. The outcomes and the consequences of emotions are definitely tangible and noticed and can be observed, but emotions themselves aren't exactly stable. They're not exactly they're not exactly permanent. There's nothing there that can accurately measure them. There's no way to truly assess them. And with all of these different things to take into account, then is there any real value in emotions and being concerned with emotions? I think the natural tendency to feel uncertain or at least cautious around anything going on in the inner worlds comes from not feeling comfortable with not knowing, not feeling comfortable with not being seen as reliable or steady in some way. You want to be emotionally stable and to show that you're capable, and there's a natural inclination towards excellence at whatever you do, that without applying oneself in a very persistent manner, there's some threat to actually getting the results that you're after. Therefore, emotions often come in its second best when it comes to weighing something up. Is something going to provide value if I work hard and if I commit to something, or is how I feel about something, because I know it's changeable, should I even value that? Because what's the point of valuing something that's just going to change? And it's this kind of dichotomy between not exactly trusting one's emotions or not exactly wanting to explore them, which provides an air of not necessarily coldness, but not being able to truly empathize with someone in an overt way, in a demonstrable way. Just because if you then express and connect, that leaves you vulnerable to change. That leaves you vulnerable to, and that means changing your mind and behavior. And sometimes that changeability with behavior and what you set out to do, if we're affected by these things, then maybe that's a threat to the outcomes that you're on some level wishing to achieve. Analyzing emotions for you is like trying to count the number of dots on a wall and expecting there to be some sort of answer to come from it or some sort of purpose. It's like it doesn't make sense to you except for just distraction or procrastination in a way. And I think it's this reducing the inner world and the intangible to reducing this part of your nature into something that's less than important because it doesn't really add to what really matters for you, that takes away any value of anyone else's stuff, and like why other people are so preoccupied with stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean, why do people care so much about certain things? Why do people take things so personally? Like, isn't that stupid? Like, why would you take things personally when it's going to affect you? Like, that's not a very rational way to look at things. And there's there's this pattern with people that I know anyway with Moon and Capricorn. There was something early in childhood which taught you, or who you know with this position, to be dependable and to be reliable, and that might have been for very practical reasons. Maybe your mum she couldn't be there, she might have been absent in some way, and you needed to be the one that could provide some stability to make sure things keep running in the household. On the flip side, it could be a mother that was very duty orientated and very very practical and very unconcerned with the immaterial, that and you valued that about her. And so instead of seeing what other children cared about, you just wanted to be grown up from the get-go. You felt as if you were already developed from a young age. So two of many different possibilities of how the Capricorn moon temperament came to be. But there's usually something early that demonstrated that reliability and dependability and keeping things to yourself and not acting out in either a hostile or in a rage, or not chucking a temper tantrum, or not being too upset. Like, for some reason these things never got you what you wanted, so therefore it was something that was pushed aside early in terms of expressing oneself, in order just to maintain some sort of inner control and a sense of invulnerability, so to speak. Again, a number of different circumstances can lead to this. Having an early sense of, or having an early type of maturity also means that playfulness and anyone acting childish in a way is almost frustrating to you, because it's like, well, not only do you not value it, but it's almost like, what's the point of just having fun and living in the moment and just being? Because ultimately, not only is that not practical, but that's just not, or pragmatic even, but it doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't have some sort of, there's no goal at the end of just enjoying and just being. So what's the point? And I think the downfall of Capricorn moon sometimes can be, although there's always a sense of purpose or a sense of reason behind why you do things, or needing that in your life to do anything, it can also kind of reduce the life experience. Like, it takes away sometimes the substance between, it takes away the substance of anything. So I think it was Alan Watts that pointed out, what's the point of going and listening to a orchestra when, if all it was about hearing, if the whole point of going to an orchestra was to see the point of it, then you pretty much go there, hear the end bang, and be over. It's like, it's not about the end goal, the purpose, it's the process. And sometimes I think the Capricorn temperament can sort of miss that in between, and not value the in between, and kind of come into trouble with whether it's experiencing depression, seeing things too much in a black and white kind of way. And I mean, things can be black and white, but they're also colourful. It's depending what you look at. Like, we create our own reality, and there's some truth in that in terms of what we personally perceive compared to an objective reality. But because there's a choice there in terms of what we choose to see and how we filter and appraise and assess information and apply meaning to it, I think sometimes questioning as you get older, am I still getting value from doing things just for a particular reason or an end goal? Am I getting as much value from this, instead of being more in the moment and trusting that other parts of you are developed enough to do the things that need to be done, and needing to attend to the things you need to attend to, and that you're not going to lose sight by enjoying yourself, or you're not going to lose sight by going inside. Sometimes that clearing out of the inside stuff, it might seem like it's going to be endless, and especially for a Capricorn moon, if you've always just repressed and not dealt with stuff, it might feel like it's just way too hard, too difficult, I'm too busy, I can't deal with this. But sometimes if that is the case, then there's just more to deal with later. So I would strongly suggest, especially if there's an inclination towards understanding parts about yourself and others, and the fact you're even watching this video says something, that it's when you can give yourself enough time and value yourself and others enough to go inside and do a bit of work. And no matter how endless the process may seem, it's something that I think is entirely necessary in order to be able to feel, no longer just be an abstract being, but to feel things truly and be okay with that. And your sense of stability and control or mastery or whatever it is that you truly seek won't be tarnished by doing this process. Instead, it'll be a reflection of how much you actually know who you are and what you truly value. And that's something that it won't change. I mean, the things that you choose in life, the people you bring in, there's all these little things that will, but ultimately once you know what really works for you and who you are at the most core level, it's very hard to shake that up. You can only be shaken up if you're out of alignment, I feel, or if you're just not listening to yourself. So you're way more vulnerable to be knocked off course if you haven't really gone deeper and assessed what's going on. So yeah, on the flip side of that as well, it's not about indulging in all this lost time in like a victim kind of way. It's give yourself time to process and to feel, but also to sort of whether it's 20 minutes or half an hour or however long, sometimes when you just need to, when you start enjoying the process of going in and processing and feeling things, to just keep it as okay, I've done this, I've done 20-minute rant or half an hour, whatever I've done, listen to the soppiest music, whatever it is, but then get back to what you want to do, and to know you've got regular outlets to actually feel things. You're not going to get swept up and carried away. You're only going to get swept up and carried away if you don't permit yourself in the first place to do it, and then all of a sudden it feels so good and so necessary that you will get swept away. Anyway, I just got swept away with trying to explain that or express this. I think another thing to consider is and to remember you are able to cope, and you will always be able to be good at whatever you want to do, and you'll always be able to provide what you need to provide, and to not be scared of losing that. When there's something embedded in you like that, you're not going to lose it anytime soon. To know that mastery is something that, like I was saying before, can only truly be attained when all parts of your being resonate with whatever this is, whatever project or skill set. And it's only the young Capricorn moon, and by young I don't mean youthful, I mean young as in earlier on in life, or those that are resisting transformation, that don't actually get to the point of really knowing who they are on many levels, on an abstract level for sure, but I mean like through felt to the core experientially. I honestly don't know what else to add. I feel like that is probably the gist of how I perceive Capricorn moon temperaments, or people with this kind of Saturnian emotional core. You deserve to enjoy and to connect, and you are so very worth it, and deserve to feel what it's like to be human and to feel love. And the only way to do that is to feel the spectrum of emotion and not be so fearful of it. You can't just let happiness in, or even the feelings that come after success, if you're not willing to experience it all. So I'd say the most courageous and the most powerful thing you can do is to do the thing that seems so weak on the outside. Yeah, I hope this made sense to you. And like I say, for most things, there's going to be other factors that can alter this. I mean, people with, say, a Saturn Neptune, for instance. So the ruler of the moon being Saturn, having, Neptune there, this might be more plugged into the more inner worlds, but maybe in a more abstract way. Or, say someone born with like a Saturn Pluto, there might be more of a stronger force within that's really trying to be repressed. But regardless of the case, it's still that Saturnine principle of keeping things as practical and grounded as possible, and to never lose that, but also to allow yourself the opposite as well, in order not to not be victim, or in the background victim, and in order to appreciate where other people come from as well, and to be able to connect and understand that people operate in their own way for different reasons.